Welcome to the Tripod. Now we're doing something a little bit different today. We're going a little deeper.
Ruh-roh.
Deeper, deep south, deep north, perhaps. We were talking, this is honestly months ago, about how we are all from different places, the societal norms of where we're from, and we realized that some of us grew up in red states, and some of us grew up in blue states. And we wanted to talk about the differences. So, Rainie, have you arranged some questions?
I have
that we'll
arranged
answer?
some questions. I mean, the first one that I want to just lay out, so I'm sure longtime listeners know, but for those who don't know, where are you from and what was the vibe politically, culturally, and just what did it smell like?
What does it smell?
I know exactly the answer to those questions.
Please.
I grew up in Tennessee. When it was Clinton and Gore was born in my hometown. So at that time, because Al Gore was from Tennessee was a blue state.
Yeah.
It was a blue state, though.
Purple.
It's really probably a purple state that happened to be blue at that time. And blue, actually, it makes more sense for Tennessee than they would like them to realize, because I think Democratic things are actually really good for rural areas and farming and all that stuff, and the environment, because they care about the environment there. But it was blue, but my town always was red. And I remember even my teachers and other students saying, like, when it was Gore versus Bush, that they were going to vote for Bush. And I was like, well, why would you vote for Bush? We literally had Gore the last 8 years, and like, seems like things are good.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it's not good because Bill Clinton got a blowjob. And I'm like, yeah, but he's not Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
he's Al Gore. He's probably
guy.
never had a blowjob.
Yeah, he's probably a guy who does not seem like he was born.
Quick side note, that's how a whole generation learned what a blowjob was.
It's true. Me too.
Really?
We were like
Same, yes.
10 years old and or 9 years old, and it was like, what's going on? And it's like, well, I guess you got to know what this thing's
Well,
about.
they called it oral sex. And I remember thinking, like, they're like talking about sex? Because I was thinking of oral being like talking, oral exam.
And I was like, I guess they're blowing on it. Which made no sense. Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
So yes, my town was red. The state is now very red and had a lot of red qualities to it. And my town smelled like cow manure.
Oh. Denver, blue.
Blue. Denver's blue. And one of the points from the Discord is that it's not really blue versus red state. It's kind of town or where you were.
City, yeah.
Because there's lots of red states that have blue centers, or, you know.
Most states have blue capital cities because...
Yeah.
Because cities in general.
Not capital, but whatever their biggest city is tends to be blue because population density lends itself to democratic policies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I grew up in Denver, which is blue. And then around Denver, there's a lot of red counties. But the vibe is actually I feel like the Wild West comes through a little bit. It's very independent. Like, it's like kind of political, but also people sort of just want to do their own thing and have their own opinions. And smelled like mountains, fresh, and that's it. Those are my 3 questions.
And that's it.
And that's all I have to say.
Well, I grew up in Hillsborough, North Carolina, but I went to high school in Durham, North Carolina, and spent time.
How long was that drive?
The drive is like, I think it's like 20 minutes to my high school, and then 30 minutes to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, which is like, they all are sort of in similar areas. Spent a lot of time in Chapel Hill growing up. Then I went to UNC Chapel Hill for college. And yeah, I mean, I definitely was in like a liberal bubble in the college towns inside of a southern red state. Like North Carolina itself is very conservative. But I went to private Quaker school that was very hippy dippy, very sort of like, granola and like, okay, here we're going to talk about race. We're going to talk about socioeconomic class. Like, our teachers are out and queer. Like, it was very a liberal environment. But outside of that environment, like our neighbors and whatever, like, we're all seemingly very conservative. But I will say that there's something I would actually imagine that would be more difficult. The divide would be more difficult to live there now than it was growing up, and I think that's because of the radicalization of like the internet and what it means to be a red state now versus what it used to mean. There was actually just a crazy challenge that the election was between. It was like 7,500 votes, and it was challenged over and over. So, and my mom like does door knocking for political candidates and stuff still, which is very wonderful.
Icon.
But no, how did it feel and what did it smell like? It smelled like trees and forest.
And forests.
and creeks.
Oh.
And it felt good.
I had some of those smells too.
Yeah.
But every Saturday, cow manure.
Poop.
Because
Yeah.
there was a sale barn a mile from my house, and the whole town smelled like poop on Saturdays.
Poopy.
Mhm.
And Saturday is supposed to be the fun day.
That was a fun day for activities.
And it stunk.
It stunk like a pig.
I was as blue gets. I'm one of the coastal elites. Grew up in the suburbs of New York.
Oh yeah, man.
So I grew up about 30, 45 minutes outside the city. So people, where the suburbs where people would then go to Manhattan to work. But very blue. We had a couple of, you would have like the fiscal conservatives in our town who really were just rich people who wanted to keep their money. But everyone, at least outwardly and vocally, was liberal. And certainly in my family, we've always, I don't have the conservative relative. Everyone in my family is exceptionally progressive and liberal. But I would say something that's interesting that as we dive into this conversation, they are to the point where they were progressive to the point of having a disdain for Red America. And I think, this is now an 8 to 9 year old conversation, but it was that type of attitude that then opened the door for Trump #1, where you would see, the narrative on shows like The Daily Show, where it was essentially the rest of the country is stupid. That was, I think, the prevailing attitude where I grew up.
And did you guys feel that? Did you guys feel like people were pushing these states are stupid?
Oh, certainly. And it makes me lit up. I would say that I get, when I went to college, I had a little bit of this, but there's something that annoys me to my core about this, there can be a superiority complex from liberals from blue states that's well, not my state. And it's Boston is one of the most racist cities ever, right? And that's in the heart of Massachusetts. I think it is of course, obviously, being a red state means there's a lot of conservatives. It's crazy. But I think there's a funny finger wagging that people from the North have towards people in the South of well, look how wonderful we're doing it. And it's there's a lot of issues, on the political spectrum everywhere.
And it's an attitude that actually lacks the empathy for people wanting to make life better for people across the country as well. It was just a assumption of there was a blanket assumption when I was growing up of people from these states are a monolith and they're all racist and they're all bad.
Totally. Yeah,
and that's not super helpful.
Yeah.
For sure.
How often were you guys talking about politics in your state?
I would say a lot. I think that's part of the environment I grew up in. Very politically active. We were going to rallies and things. When
I have to imagine that's more to do with your family than this state.
No,
you grew
exactly.
Up in.
That's what I mean. Yeah. The environment and the bubble that I grew up in was very conscious about that and talking about it a lot.
Yeah, and typically though, I think it's the same as maybe not now, but previously you talk about it during election years.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
And then you don't talk about it. Or you complain about it.
Yeah.
But you talk about it, I think, most effectively when the opportunity for change is on the horizon. And then when it's not on the horizon, you just sort of bitch about it.
Exactly.
Right? Because why it doesn't seem like there's an opportunity for change right now, but this is obnoxious to me.
Yeah.
And you can especially now, it's really so totalitarian and, they're trying to get rid of habeas corpus. So I don't know what the fuck now. Now it's crazy.
No, it's crazy.
Now you might get arrested just because you're outside.
You've seen stories of people now who are getting detained at customs, and they're going through their social media, and it's basically I saw it just happened to Hassan Piker.
Really?
Wow.
Last night as we're recording this, so I don't know much about it, but it's happened to some other influencers, people who are outspoken against the Trump administration. They're having to go through their social media. I haven't gotten to read too much into it, but it's crazy.
Yeah,
Piker's huge too. I just feel like he's
humongous.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear him talk about it.
Yeah.
I grew up in New York, but my mom grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, home of The Office. And so that has been a swing state for my entire life. It's always one of the deciding parts of the election. So 2004 for Bush versus Kerry, we went door to door campaigning. So I was 13 years old. going door to door, and I definitely had someone say, "Get off my lawn, or I'm going to shoot you."
Yeah,
it was like, I'm like, I'm a kid, but it was like, like little me fucking thinking that I'm gonna knock on someone's door and like a week, days before the election, get them to change their minds.
Yeah. But better than nothing.
We tried.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna set the scene and sort of talk about how big a part of your life were these things. So, how many guns were in your vicinity?
That's crazy. So that's so funny. I don't know a single person growing up who had a gun.
Oh yeah,
which is so fun. Like, I bet you it was totally opposite. And now, I mean, honestly, I think that's probably changing. And here in LA, I know people who own guns and are trying to be responsible gun owners. In Westchester, New York, where I grew up, I do not know a single person who owned a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, people had guns. I don't know if this was your experience too, Keith, but people in the South had guns for sure.
But it really was mostly hunting rifles.
Mostly, though. Yes, for sure.
Like, really, truly, it's mostly these people went and shot deer on the weekends.
Yeah.
And they also had like crossbows and bows because they were shooting turkeys.
That's right.
Like, mostly the weapons were hunting weapons. Now, some of them also had pistols, but it wasn't really there yet in the 90s. It was mostly like, I'll get my gun, and they would go get a rifle.
Yeah, right.
If they were going to threaten you to get off their lawn, they'd get their rifle, because it's their hunting thing that they pull out as a defense mechanism. But they don't actually, like, not carrying around like a 9mm or like something that they could put in their pants. But now, I bet they are.
What's the benefit of having a crossbow instead of a gun?
It's hunting seasons. So there are seasons where you can shoot animals with the gun, and there are seasons where you can only shoot them with bows, and it's related to their breeding season. Yeah. It's like if you let people shoot them with a gun all the time, you'll wipe out the population.
I believe also less damage.
It's honestly to have failure.
Yeah.
It's just harder with a bow.
Yeah.
And there's certain animals you can only hunt certain seasons.
Them knowing that, by the way, though, is like blue savers, I'd say, right there. Like, it's just not my reality.
Yeah.
You can, and also, like, if you're in the woods, like, we would be running around the woods, there was signs posted to be like, do not run around in this part of the woods unless you're wearing all orange, because you will get shot by someone that thinks you're
I never went in any of the hunting area woods because I had my own woods that weren't for hunting.
Yeah.
That was the South. Like, I had my own little set of woods. It's like, okay, well, I'm the only kid running around in these woods unless I invite friends over.
We were sort of like, we'd go through our woods, and then another woods, and then under the fence, and we're just, who knows where we are. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy that we were allowed to do this, but like, I don't know if I'd let my son do this now, but we were like miles from home, like going through abandoned houses, like
that's children. And your parents probably didn't allow you to do that.
No,
you
we just did
it.
Yeah, they didn't know. Like, they thought we were just by the creek or whatever.
Yeah, because I did that too. I was like, you start wandering, and then we'll wander a little further, a little further.
Yeah.
We should probably go home soon, huh? I don't know where we are.
How obvious is the hunting wood versus not hunting wood?
It's usually signs posted. So they'll be like, this area's a hunting zone. Make sure you're wearing
Normally
orange.
You'd have to cross a fence line or an old broken fence line.
Yeah,
okay, so it's clear.
Yeah, it's usually pretty clear. Okay. But I fired. I mean, like, I had an uncle bring over a gun, and we're like shooting a rifle at a shed and, trying to hit a target or whatever. That was pretty common.
And by the way, I would have loved that.
Yeah.
By the way,
it's very.
I would have loved that.
I shot cans with a BB gun. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, we had BB guns. Or no, I had friends with BB guns. My parents were like, no BB guns.
I didn't have a BB gun.
Yeah, we would go.
Casey had a BB gun. And we shot her BB gun.
I remember one time we were in like 7th or 8th grade, and we had an airsoft pistol, and all of us were like shirtless, like 7th graders or whatever. And then one of our friends took the airsoft pistol and was like, you better run. And we were like, ah! And we all ran into the woods and hid, and he hunted us.
That sounds awesome.
It was awesome.
Core memory right there.
And so we were shirtless, so they like left welts that would hurt. It was fun.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, speaking of hunting, what is mudding? This is something I just learned about.
Mudding?
Like the Tough Mudder? Like the competitions?
This is maybe it's
truck mudding?
Wait,
tough
maybe it's so what I found
doing tough mudding, which is like a race. It's normally like an obstacle course that's gross. It's like you're going through mud. Sometimes you're going through barbed wire. Some of them now have like fire. Like there's a whole like circuit of like these sort of prove your toughness.
But is it truck mudding? Is where you take your truck and you get it in the mud and you're skidding around and you're going off road?
That's just like ripping through the mud in your truck.
Yeah.
That's probably what this mudding is talking about.
Maybe.
Let's get Dana in here because she was the one who told me about this. 1 second, we'll get from an audience.
I remember people used to.
I mean, you want to talk about challenging assumptions?
No.
We were in Alaska filming, and we met someone at a Walmart, and she was like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to go hunting," and my fucking New York ass was like, "Oh yeah, oh you're gonna hunt an innocent? Like, what are you gonna do?" And I was expecting her to not like. She was going moose hunting, and she had an answer for everything that she was going to do with that moose. She's like, well, yeah, I'm going to like make the jerky, make the meat, dry it. Like she was going to use every cubic inch of that.
Yeah.
And then it taught me like, oh, right. I just
have an assumption.
I have an assumption. And there are people out there who actually are probably more in touch with their food than I am.
Oh, certainly.
Science, yeah.
No, but it's like the background of hunting. Yeah, like I had a friend who, he would kill deer, but then they would take all the deer, they would freeze it, and they would use it over the course of like a year.
Meanwhile, I'm like buying fucking chicken nuggets and throwing out the ones I don't eat.
Right, like there's something that's interesting about it, yeah.
Okay, so mudding is something that in the Discord people brought up a number of times, and Kaylin knows what it is, so she can explain it in full detail.
I can't believe that you guys don't know. This is so fun. So mudding is something that you do, I guess, in a lot of southern states. I did it growing up in Florida, where you just go somewhere. It was always just in the middle of the woods where there's like an open field that usually is dirt. After it rains, it's mud. Okay? Big open field, mud. You take your four-wheeler, truck, etc., and just drive through it, and you get all muddy.
Ripped down.
I'm familiar with this. Yeah. You can take your truck, your fucking
it could be any
truck.
form of. Some of my friends, like one of my friends did it in her Kia Soul. Like it doesn't matter.
So funny.
I mean, probably not smart, but most people are doing it in four-wheelers or trucks. It's more fun if you're in a four-wheeler because then you are also getting muddy. Because like in a truck, you're safe.
Is it a holiday too?
No.
Well, I also want to clarify, if you're in a four-wheeler, you die also, because if the four-wheeler flips, the four-wheeler lands on you.
It is very dangerous, I will say, yes.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That sounds so fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it's fine. If you go to a southern town, you will drive by a truck that is completely covered in dried mud.
That's
and you'll be
awesome.
like, what happened there? It's like, he was mud.
It's so fun.
I'm sure you also absolutely destroy whatever land you are on.
Probably.
Like if it's someone's like field.
Yeah, often people are doing, I feel like they're doing it on their own property.
Yeah, or it's like a dirt bike, like they're using it for dirt bikes or something.
I see.
Yeah.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Societal views on therapy have really evolved throughout the years. I think that it's very common and acceptable and good, and people are supportive of people getting therapy. I think therapy is great. There's been so many positives. Mental health awareness is just growing, but there's still progress to be made. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent survey say they have avoided seeking mental health support due to fear of judgment, and that is a common thing. However, I do encourage you to get therapy, and therapy has just been so helpful for me, just navigating the general societal stresses that we're all enduring, but also your personal ones. And BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching people with the right therapist from their diverse network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists with a wide range of specialties. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. You can easily switch therapists at any time at no extra cost. We're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/tripod to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/tripod.
Okay, the next one is, how much was church part of your life?
Oh yeah, like honestly, the entertainment of Carthage was church driven.
Really?
For sure.
So every Sunday you go to church, and that's like the normal church. But then normally Wednesday nights, most churches, our church eventually started doing it. It was kind of like in the summer, there'd be like a potluck and like a night, like a very chill 20-minute like service. But it was mostly a community event. Like come here, have dinner, hang out, chat with your friends, listen to some guy tell you a nice lesson. Kids are going to go outside and play tag.
Yeah.
It just was something to do because there's nothing to do.
Right.
You know, no bowling alley in the town, no movie theater in the town, no mall in the town. All those things were 45 minutes to an hour away. And then any of the, like, there were enough churches where, like, I was in 2 different churches' Christmas plays.
Wow. Yeah.
And like another church is like spring something, because again, that's the only entertainment. High school, this is Friday Night Lights. Friday night football games, that's going to keep you covered in the fall. Then you got basketball through the winter. You don't really go watch the high school baseball team because they're not very good. You play baseball maybe, but like it's sports and church. The only entertainment. at all.
Yeah.
And do you give you a great understanding of like the tie of church and sports? Is I was doing a play at my church, and I think I had to do like an 8 count grapevine in this thing, and there was a football coach who saw it. And he's like, he'd be good at football. Like,
that's so funny.
So
You
my
had
mom
the
is like,
footwork.
he's like, it's too bad he doesn't do football because he's got great footwork. He moves quick. It's like he saw that, and instead of saying, "Wow, what a great performer," it's like, "I want to get that guy on the field."
Oh my gosh!
But there's also like I think it speaks to the that can really foster community. Like it's like everyone's at the game, everyone's at the church, whatever. Like
it was great.
There's something very interesting about that.
Well, I thought it was interesting too because on the Discord they were like, one of the first things a stranger will ask you is where you go to church. But then I was thinking like, what's the first thing you would ask a stranger?
It's interesting. That's a bigger town than Carthage because Carthage you would already know.
Yeah, you would already know.
You would know. But there are like bigger rural towns.
Yeah.
Like Carthage is so small.
Well,
But
it's funny that you even asked that question. So obviously, no, we did not. Church was not a part of my town. Synagogue, but not even that was part of cult. Whatever. Like people went to synagogue when they had to, or for bar mitzvahs. But your question of like, well, what would you ask a stranger? I think the answer is you wouldn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Oh, you wouldn't talk to the stranger.
No, I
No,
mean,
you
like
wouldn't.
unless you got to be like, hey, do you have the time? Like I think that it's a transactional thing. Like okay, so a lot of people's experience with like New Yorkers, not that I am a classic New Yorker, I grew up in the fucking suburbs, but people will say like when you go in the city, like they're rude, right? Have you?
Oh yeah, people say that. Yeah.
People say, and I don't think they are.
No.
They're just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
They're kind to you if you need something, they'll hold the door for you, whatever.
they'll give you directions.
Yeah, but it's not like I don't have. What do you mean? I have my. What stranger am I talking to?
It's also like I
This frazzles my
Being
coastal
like,
mind.
You dick. Yeah, like, but I also
What do I have to talk to a stranger about? I don't need to know a stranger.
and
So,
people
yeah.
in New
I
York.
don't care what fucking church they go to.
Yeah,
That's different. In a small town, you do need to know all the strangers.
yeah.
Weirdly. Because it's so small.
I
The
didn't know
fact
all
that
the
you
people.
don't know somebody is strange.
You're like,
Oh,
who is that
it's
So
guy?
I
interesting.
need to ask
Yeah.
who you are and a simpler way to do that is like, oh, what church do you go to? Maybe that's why I don't know who you are. Because you don't go to my church.
Let me tell you, not only that, I didn't know everyone who lived on my block.
Yeah, that's funny.
Like
Wow, I think I don't know. I couldn't name all of the people on my block.
there were people on my block.
now.
Growing up.
Oh, really?
I never,
That's surprising.
I never saw them. I don't know who. Like I can picture. Okay, my next door neighbor we knew. Because like you just sort of have to know your next door neighbor, and they kind of sucked. And then my buddy John lived diagonal from me, so I knew him.
out.
yeah.
Shout
John.
out. Joe lived like way down, whatever. Other than that, I think I can name 3 houses on my block.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I knew. And like, again, I went to like definitely a bigger town than, I lived in definitely a bigger town than Keithstown, but also because it was adjacent to like much bigger towns, Durham and Chapel Hill are both pretty big.
Yeah.
Like they're college towns, so they're huge. But even so, in Hillsborough, I knew everyone on I have a dirt road, gravel road, everyone on our dirt road, everyone on like the next turn over, we knew who all those people were and their kids. And it was just really common to know everybody. And like, we would, not that we would even see them that much, but we'd see them in their yards and we'd wave and be like, oh, hey, this is so-and-so.
I knew people, obviously, it was grade based. Like, so you knew families of your school. An irony that I find to be true across a lot of America is that the more affluent a city, the more liberal it is. But that's often coincides with more private space versus public space. So I think about here in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is like, people accuse Hollywood of being this liberal mecca. Accuse, right? They assume it is. But it is, there's barely any public space in this whole fucking city.
Yeah.
And the only public space is shopping malls, where it's mostly just lots of people with their yards fenced off, backyard, hang out in my backyard. And so you don't see people. Like, no one utilizes their front yards to hang out. You don't play in the block. It's that's just sort of one of the contradictions of Los Angeles that I find.
Yeah, that is interesting. That it's like, it's liberal, but at the same time, it's very like separate, like individualist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it's also so neighborhood bit. Like it's so every neighborhood is so different. Like, you know, Los Angeles is this giant sprawl. And I was just, you know, in New York recently and I was kind of like thinking just about the fact that like New York is like a city and LA is really not a city.
No, it's a bunch of suburbs.
It's a bunch of different suburbs and each suburb has its own identity. And even within that identity is so many different types of people. And like, that's what makes LA interesting, but it doesn't have the same, like when you're in New York, you feel like you're connected to every part of New York City kind of. And
when you're in Chicago and and Boston too.
You feel like you're connected.
They're dense.
Yeah.
And
Really dense,
like, it's a concrete jungle of sorts.
Yeah. And New York has the thing of when you're in New York and you take the subway, you are with every variant of socioeconomic class.
Yeah.
In LA, you don't interact with people outside of your bubble almost at all because you get in your car and you drive to the location and then you're at the location, you leave the location, you go home.
Yeah, maybe what I'm saying is more true about LA than other cities, but it's just, it's something that I've thought about.
Yeah, it's very isolated.
LA, you really understand when you're driving and you're driving the carpool lane and you see 5 lanes of cars that aren't in the carpool lane.
Right. Individuals. Yeah.
And it's like gridlock.
Yeah.
That's how many people are driving themselves alone in a car to where they're going.
I know, it is sad.
It's not a good way to do it, but the city built
built
itself
stupid.
that way.
And
I would
companies built us
love
that way.
if I could take trains. I would
It'd be
love
great.
that.
Oh yeah.
But we need like 100 times more trains than there are.
I know, it's crazy.
We gotta have like at least 100 trains.
100 times more
At least.
trains.
One before we move off of this,
Yeah.
because it sort of relates, and maybe there's someone who asked this in the thing.
Yeah.
Miles specifically, because I know, well, maybe the answer in your neighborhood is true. But when you were driving past another person in a car, did you wave at them?
Yeah. If we knew, if we'd be
What
like,
if you didn't know them, but it was just you two? There was only one other car. You were passing at an intersection.
Definitely not.
oh, not at an intersection, but if I was on my street, any one of the any neighbor I had that was on like I think there was probably like 20 families on our road or whatever, maybe 15. Of course, hand up.
In my cute little neighborhood street, like I have that here, because we have like this like it's like not it's just like a couple dead ends that I live on, so people. But growing up, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm talking anywhere in Carthage city limits.
That's great.
If you are driving and there's like only one other car, or you would wave to them.
That's adorable.
It's just this.
Little fingers raised.
Yeah, just an acknowledgement of the other person, and it's very strange.
Huh.
You only wouldn't if it somehow was lots of cars, which there never were.
Yeah.
There weren't enough people for there to be traffic in the city. Like
make eye
there
contact.
weren't
It's
enough
interesting
people.
though, because that is so familial, right? Like that's so lovely and comforting.
It's lovely.
And you could argue that there's a lot more warmth there than where I grew up.
Yeah.
But that also then breeds, I would assume seemingly, this extremely intense us versus them mentality. Where anyone who's not in that thing, you can see how quickly that gets turned into othering.
Well, no, I totally agree. And I think that there's a big not misunderstanding. There's like a thing where people are like, okay, how could these people, vote for Trump? He's all these horrible things, obviously, right? And that's how I feel too. When you think about a small town.
Very brave of you to say.
Yeah, right. Isn't that brave?
Well, now it is.
Now it is, yeah. When you think about a small town, though, it's like, okay, these people are, passing these anti-trans laws, or LGBT laws or whatever. They don't know any trans people. They've never seen a gay person. They probably don't even know very many black people. They probably don't even know, like, there are towns in America that it's like, there are these rural towns. These people have no idea of anyone outside of their tiny bubble. And then they're being brainwashed basically by Fox News. That's like, these people are villainous. They're evil, and here are all the ways that they're evil. And they believe them. But I think that sometimes
they have met a gay person, they just don't know it, right?
Oh, they don't know it. No, exactly.
It's a culture that 100%. Craves homogeny.
Yeah. And they don't know, and they're not like doing the work to be like, oh yeah, I guess I have to go against this thing that I'm being sold, on Fox or whatever.
I'm sure someone listening would tell me all the ways that I'm wrong, but I've thought about the symbolism of even line dancing. Or square dancing, right?
Line dancing.
Line dancing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we're all going to get together and we're all going to do the same thing. Right? It's like, it's such a culture of homogeny of like, do not step outside the bounds. We are going to control what you do, who you can marry, what you look like, what you wear, what you fucking dance.
Well, the thing about line dancing is it's really fun.
Yeah.
You've done it.
That is the thing about it.
Yeah.
You know?
To wrap up, I thought though there obviously are hateful people that that maybe do know a gay person and are still hateful.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of these people just don't. It's like the reason cities are so liberal is there's so many different types of people. You're interacting with people. You're,
and the
broadening your
homogeny also
experience.
comes from the fact that like most of the kids that I went to school with were like, oh, well, I'm going to go see my great grandmother this weekend.
Yeah.
They're on my block.
That's wild.
Right. These people who they have legacies of people,
Correct.
generations and generations and generations. So much so that like people knew who I was because I wasn't in a generational line in Carthage because my family moved to Carthage.
Yeah.
But if you go anywhere, any little store, you walk in, they'd be like, "Oh, you're one of the Habersberger boys, aren't you?"
That's so funny.
And then you're with your friend Hank. He's like, "Oh, your mama teaches first grade down at the elementary school, right?"
Yeah, that is wild.
And like everyone knows, and like, "Oh, you're one of Miss Tinsley's boys."
This
like
freaks me out.
See, that's
dog.
funny because my mom taught.
I don't want that.
My mom taught public school, K through 6. So that would happen to us. They'd be like, "Oh my God, Miss Frisch!" All the kids we'd be in town, and all of them knew my mom because she was their art teacher.
Yep.
It's
But
just,
everyone knows
everyone knows everyone.
Yeah, no, that like kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, I mean, it was a
So
weird way
funny.
like of keeping you in line.
It's panopticon shit.
Yeah, and also
Unintentionally, but
so the county was dry.
by the way, I'm feeling myself and my like some of my biases coming back in, and like because it's just like there is I grew up being like these places are scary and they breed bad people. It's just sort of like if
They
I'm
breed the
fully
same
honest.
people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's
Change
correct. I'm saying that's
doesn't align with the same people well.
Yeah.
Right? Like
yeah.
it's
Oh, interesting.
that like time changes what is good and what is acceptable and quote unquote normal. And if you're stuck in a specific time period, because generationally it's the same people being taught the same things, eventually it will greatly differ with the outside and they will really oppress against it because it's not their world. It's not how things work in their rules society that they've lived in for forever. And while we can say this, yes, objectively, these people, in our opinion, so subjectively, I suppose, are wrong because the world is existing and these people are not evil, that they're being told are evil. They don't see that, so they really do believe it's true.
Yeah.
And so it's tough because also a lot of the objectives of some of these red states is to hurt education so that people
100%.
can't have the opportunity to learn
Yeah.
and change their own destiny. So it's not even like there are people who are not educated. It's 100% not their fault.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's not their fault that they feel this way. So like that's where it gets really bad when there's the us versus them. Those people are stupid. Even if you might be right. Those people might be stupid. Not their fault.
And it should
They're
be your
victims,
number
actually.
one goal to help them.
Yeah, they're victims. So we
Yeah.
shouldn't ostracize them. We should figure out how to help these victims of this misinformation. But instead, we're so annoyed and frustrated with their screaming of their own misinformation that we instead choose to oppose them and call them names, which is a natural response that lots of people do on either side, but it doesn't help anything. So it's a bummer.
It's a tricky situation, but we will, and I do believe this, fix it by the end of the podcast.
Yes, I think so. That's why we're going through this one question at a time. What's the next question? We solved that one.
Question. Okay. I've got a question for Keith. Something that I do want to know about is Keith's experience growing up in Tennessee and then living in Chicago, being creative and artistic. Was there pressure for the art to be incredible while also having limited support, either financially, socially, to make it happen, to make it incredible? I know that Keith played music almost his entire life. Let's see.
I'm also, if I can add a question, I'm curious about the ways in which you probably stood the fuck out. And was there pressure to not be an artistic little weirdo?
Yeah.
So yes. So the only way I could do art was to play in the marching band, so in our high school, band meant you were in marching band, you were in concert band, you were in pep band, you were in band. Band is all of the band. It's only one band. There is band. I was going to be a trumpet player until the high school band director said, "We don't have any French horn players. Keith, would you learn French horn? If you say yes, I will teach you for free over the summer, and the school will lend you a French horn for free."
So
And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good. And he also was like, there's going to be like 15 trumpets, but you'll be the only French horn player. And I'm like, I like the sound of that.
Cool.
I'm special, you say. Right? It totally worked. And I did it, and I was really into it, and I liked it. I was pretty good at music, and I did all the extracurricular things that I could do in Tennessee, which honestly, Tennessee is a pretty good state for providing arts opportunities. There's a lot of music camps that you can pay to go to, but there are also some state-sponsored camps, and all the public one or private ones, you can get scholarships from the state sometimes to go to. So like it's not bad. And another thing to say, Texas is one of the best arts states there is. And you wouldn't think that of one of the loudest, most independent southern states, but they have an incredible, or they used to at least, maybe they don't now, but they used to be one of the top schools in public education, music, and arts.
Oh, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah.
It was in school. It's obviously not cool to be in band, except that marching band was cool because football was cool.
Right. So
it was not as cool as football.
You're part of the team.
But in that moment, you were part of the show of Friday night. So when the marching band was good, it actually was cool.
Yeah.
Still, it's not as cool as being a cheerleader, football player, basketball player, any other thing. But it was cooler than nothing.
That's right.
And so, I was absolutely made fun of for having an instrument on the bus, that kind of normal normal stuff, right? Like carrying also a French horn case looks stupid and it moves stupid. It's the shape of a French horn, so the bell is big. It's an ugly case. It like hits all the bus seats when you're getting on the bus. So it's right for being made fun of for having the thing. You have to sit next to it, whatever. So there were those little stigmas, but I really liked it, and I also was good at being friends with everybody regardless, killing them with kindness and humor, basically. Yeah. The thing was, when I went to Illinois and the music was so good that it was like, oh, am I even good enough to do it in Illinois? Because Illinois school had five tiers of band, and I had to audition to get into the band. And I got into the top band as fourth chair, but I had previously been the only French horn player. And I was like one of the best in the state of Tennessee, but I was actually not even the best in the school I went to in Illinois. So it was a very big culture shock in that way. But there was no theater program, as I said before. There was no art classes. There was art club. There was theater or drama club. Right. But the school didn't have any money for theater education, art education, visual art education, any of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it wasn't supported and funded, but like, because again, church, I played brass quintet music in churches. Like that was, again, the church is the stage.
It really is. I think
the
for
church
a lot
is
of
the theater. It's a theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think that a lot of people get their start in like choir or like anything in a church. And
I also sang in my church choir because no other place to perform.
You had to find the stage.
I couldn't perform, and I just desperately wanted to perform. That's why I learned how to juggle.
Yeah.
It was like to entertain myself, but also to have something else I could do to impress people with a performance.
And also, churches can be beautiful theaters. They're
gorgeous.
A ton of money in there.
They're acoustically nice.
Acoustics are great.
So I've heard. I haven't been.
And guaranteed audiences every Sunday.
Guaranteed. Yeah, exactly. They're there.
I don't know if that answered the question. I mean, it was not cool. I still did it. And I think eventually the band got less and less cool. Like I know that after I graduated in the last few years, it got down to like 20 members. When I was in it, it's like 100 people. So it was kind of cool. Yeah. But then I think it goes in phases. I think always in Carthage, it's such a small town where there's going to be people who aren't musically inclined. So that sort of shrinks and dies. And also more people are probably being like, don't waste your time with that. Art sucks, whatever.
Yeah. And so it was intimidating in Chicago. Was it also like, oh, there's so many, or in Illinois, was it also like, there's so many resources now?
It was also
and
so
everybody's
exciting.
talking about it?
Yeah, because I started doing theater.
Yeah.
I hadn't been in a play. There wasn't a church play until I was a senior in high school.
And were you like, this is awesome?
It was fucking awesome. I mean, I went from being, I was like, I'm going to be a French horn player. When I was in Tennessee, I was going to go to Tennessee Tech. I was going to major in French horn performance. Like, I was going to absolutely audition and get a full ride. There was going to be no question about that because I was already doing lessons there. The whole staff knew me. They know I was good. They were already courting me to come there and be there. But then I moved right before senior year of high school, started doing theater. And although my skills were still to get a scholarship in French horn, so that's how I applied to all the schools, before school even started at ISU, I switched to being a theater major and music minor. And I had to abandon my puny little scholarship that I'd gotten, which was as much as they would give, which was like maybe $1,000 a semester, but I had to get rid of it. Yeah. Because I switched. I was like, I'm not going to major in that.
Yeah.
Theater I realized like there's even less money there than theater.
Yeah.
Theater's not a lot of money either, but there's even fewer jobs playing French horn professionally.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so this one's from Zach. Living in the three most blue (parentheses question mark) states, how different is the political culture of New York compared to Massachusetts and California?
They're all pretty similar.
I think that's a really good answer.
Whoa.
Really?
I lived in New York, and then I went to college in Boston, and then I moved to LA, and I've been in liberal bubbles my whole life.
But it's so what I'm curious about the question too, because it's so funny to think about these states as a binary or as a like.
Well, yeah, but think about my experience there.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So Boston, I didn't live in Boston. I went to college in Boston. I wasn't engaged in the community there. I went to Emerson. It's a fucking queer liberal arts college.
Yeah.
Of course, I was only surrounded by the most liberal people. And probably, found more like-minded people than my school. I would say that we were probably more further on the progressive spectrum compared to my hometown, right? There's a lot of Wall Street types, a lot of, lawyers, like people that I think would be like, oh, I don't care what you do in your own life, but I'd like to keep my tax dollars.
Yeah.
So like you had that expression of conservatism.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I've existed in liberal echo chambers always, to the point that I think it has prevented me at times from being able to like understand most people and understand the realities of what most of the country is like, what life is like.
Yeah, we went on tour the first time. You were like, I haven't seen any of these places.
No, I up before we had gone on tour outside of Chicago, I had not been west of Pennsylvania, like of Philly or east of Vegas. Just the whole country was an open question mark to me.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like I went from Denver to Boston, and my experience was in high school, we talked about race all the time because my high school was predominantly like black and brown. When I went to Boston, I thought we were going to talk about it more because you've like here, college is you talk about politics all the time. You talk about rights. And I couldn't believe how little we talked about it. And so that's why I was American Studies, because I was like, well, we have to talk about it somewhere. I guess I'll take these classes.
That's interesting.
So for me, it was different. But I think to your point, like it's not really the city. It's just the experience
right, and
of being in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's also like the type of college you go to, because we talked a lot about race growing up. And because I went to a school that was very liberal, that was very much like, we were talking about this stuff really early. There were my high school was one of the first schools to be like non-segregated. Like when it was started, it was like a long, and they got a lot of shit for that, then of course. But then I went to UNC Chapel Hill, which is a public university, and the conversations about race are really different because you're in, class with people that, it's public universities, you're in class with, people who are super liberal. You're also in class with people that are super conservative, that have hateful opinions, that are being like, those wrongs are being righted in English 101, like in front of a crowd, where they're like, well, I always thought that people were like this. And then it's like, whoa, no. And like, you're seeing people for the first time also, like, people that are maybe from a small town that have never met anybody that has a diverse background at all.
Right.
They've never met any black people, or they're not really spending time around them in their small town. Then they go to a big public university, and all of a sudden, those are your classmates. You have to interact with these people and your assumptions. I definitely watched also friends of mine become less conservative. Like I had friends from blue states that had come down to North Carolina, and like their parents were probably conservative, but over the course of our college experience, they were like, oh yeah, no, I don't fuck with any of that anymore. Like you watched the unraveling of that.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Really interesting.
I think the places I grew up where they did a good job of cultural blending, they don't do a good job of socioeconomic blending. So you know the people within your socioeconomic class, and you have big blind spots outside of that. So that was obviously true in my town. That's true of the college I went to, right? To afford to go to college. And then when you move to LA, you stay in your bubbles. And there's I don't know if you listen to the podcast Nice White Parents. There's the whole history of the lack of blending of classes in the New York schooling structure. Within public schools. Like I went to public school in New York, but you needed to be within a certain bracket in order to access that public school.
Yeah.
So there's obvious tons of huge blind spots that I grew up with and that you still have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And kind of to your point, like at my college, it was more so people were super far left, but didn't necessarily, because they hadn't had a lot of experience, like they were in these insulated bubbles. And so they were trying to be a part of the conversation, but didn't really understand the nuances. And so there was just things that people said that it just made me mad. You know what I mean? Like I'd just be like, I just disagree with that. And
I think that it's also, and you see this, I mean, all this is very complicated. I'm sure I've said 10 wrong things in this podcast alone.
But you haven't.
No, not me, just Zach. But no, I think that like there's also a thing where I grew up so, probably villainizing people that were conservative at all. That was my upbringing. Going to a public university and engaging with like actual people, it did sort of make me be like, oh, okay, I got to also walk back this sort of, not that I was walking back my opinions, but walking back my like blatant hatred and unwilling to engage with anyone that was different than me.
Yeah.
And by different than me, I mean not as liberal. My walking back was being like, oh, I got to like engage with everyone. I can't just write people off and refuse to have a conversation about the thing, especially when we're in like a class. I can just be like, oh, this person's stupid. They'll never understand.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I have to engage with this like, slow talking white guy from the deep South that's like, yeah, he's got some shit that he's saying that I do not agree with, but I have to also be able to like talk to this person and try and get my points across.
Do you have anything that typically work? Like, do you have any advice for people who are trying to do it? Trying to connect across political lines?
Yeah, and again, like I said, we are going to fix it by the end of the episode. But
you also can pass.
No, I will. I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it like a hero. I think that I found more often than not, people just don't like to be told that they're stupid. People do not like to feel that you think that they're stupid, even if. And I think that's true. Overall, that's that you were talking about the Jon Stewart effect. And I think that it's like, I love Jon Stewart. I love that show. I love everything that they've done for, media. But I do think there's an element of that that's just like, if you call someone stupid enough times, they're gonna be like, fuck you. Why would I ever engage with this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's when you're in a conversation with someone that disagrees with you vehemently, you have to be like, okay, well, like, here's where I'm coming from. And I see you think this and whatever. And you don't have to you don't have to empathize with their opinion, because like a lot of people have a lot of hateful opinions, but you have to like empathize with the idea that they are a person. You have to talk to them like a person. People do not like being talked down to. They don't like being told that they're stupid, even when they are being stupid. Good lesson I had to learn. Just talking to friends when they're being dumb. Sometimes you got to be like, you're not making necessarily the best choices. You can't just be like, you're fucking stupid, right? But yeah, I don't know. You have to engage.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of, go ahead.
The closest thing I can get to this is I had an argument with somebody, like it was early in COVID, and they were like protesting people wearing masks, and they were outside like protesting. And there was this like kind of older guy, and there were these sort of lunatic people that were just too much. And this older guy had a sign that was like 1,000 doctors, say this. And I was like, okay, well, what are those 1,000 doctors? I said, okay, I think like, do you want to have do you want to like talk about it? I was like, okay, let's go for it. She said that. And then I said, okay, how many doctors do you think there are in Los Angeles?
That's a really good point.
And I said, I'm fully agreeing that perhaps 1,000 doctors said this.
Yeah.
But how many doctors do you think are in LA? And why aren't 4 million doctors saying that?
Yeah, right.
Like, why would it only be 1,000?
Yeah.
Out of all the doctors in the world, why is it only 1,000 who think that way? Like, that's not enough for me to base my decision making off of. I have to go with most doctors, and I have to think that most doctors are not in some gigantic conspiracy to harm me.
Yeah, right.
And that's how they're gonna get you, Keith. You fucking
and
sheep.
he was like, well, but how do you know that they're on your side? It's like, oh, I don't. But like, I don't know a lot of things, but I kind of mostly go by majority for everything. Like, don't you drink milk that somebody has decided is okay for you to drink? Like, don't you eat cereal that someone, like most people somehow have said this is okay to eat? Like, that's how our society works. I don't think I can make my decisions based off those 1,000 doctors when there's so many more doctors that aren't saying that.
Yes.
And he was like, I understand your point. He didn't he didn't admit that he changed his mind, but he at least understood my point. I was like, okay, well,
good enough.
That's my perspective. I know people who are currently sick with COVID right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to entertain much huge discourse, but I'm happy to go through a point by point issue with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be like you try to hear out their thing and then just poke little holes. Don't be like, you're so stupid because this. Be like, well, why do we think it's like this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, open it up for us all to explore and try to find an answer together. And maybe you'll get headway.
That's tricky.
It's challenging because it gets very emotional very quickly.
I know, and I'm hearing this, and I'm just like, these are old rules, man. Like this doesn't work.
Totally.
I'm thinking about there was this one kid in our middle school who was this math savant, total dickhead, and he was the one he was a young Sheldon motherfucker who would like wear a bow tie in middle school and was like, actually, Bush was right for invading Afghanistan, and here's why. It was like the one kid, right? And I'm thinking about, and at the time we were like, well, he's evil, but he's probably brilliant. Like you just had this like he reads The Economist because he's in 6th grade.
Oh wow!
So like I don't know. I disagree with him politically, but clearly he's smart. And I'm thinking if that kid now, if I was in middle school,
he's a senator.
Yeah, probably. But if that kid were a Trump motherfucker and I'm in middle school with him.
Yeah.
I'm not having discourse with this motherfucker, nor am I respecting or assuming that his opinion is based in like, well, he sees things this way.
You're totally right.
There are like, obviously, the kids are just obviously also misinformed and brainwashed. It doesn't mean what they're doing is
How
right.
old do we let them get? Here's a question that I've thought about, right? If a kid...
You mean if they have a bad opinion before we correct it?
No, before you just go, oh, that person's an asshole. So like a 10-year-old with an incorrect political opinion,
they just have parents that have those opinions.
You go, okay, well, their parents are, they don't know any better. 18-year-old,
they're still their parents.
okay. 25-year-old. At what
25,
age do we go?
You should have
not that you can't correct
thought.
them, but it is sort of their parent. They're just,
Yeah.
But it's and again, we're gonna fix it. We have a couple more minutes left. But it does.
We're so close.
We're so close to fixing it. But no, it is a different world now. It's so nightmarish and insane. I do still think that Keith is right in that the thing we have to do just is engage.
There are absolutely people out there that knowingly are bad. Absolutely fuck them.
Totally. Fuck those people.
Like,
sure.
It's mostly though the people who are kind of making the decisions to trick people into voting for them. More than
or
anything
gerrymander
else.
districts or make
like
it so you
it's
can't.
really not the individual voter. Now, there are individual voters who are bad. 100%. There's people who are Nazis, right? There are. But, there are just people who get tricked.
I feel
people
like
who just got tricked.
So I haven't really been using social media as much. It's sort of a like protect my mental energy thing, and also billionaires hollowed out our social media, so it feels like just
it sucks now.
pissing into the wind anyway. And so I feel like I haven't had much fuck fascist energy as I would like to cultivate out in the world, and so this does feel nice to start to get there. And I don't know where to properly express that sentiment, because it again just posting an Instagram story like makes me feel good for 5 minutes, and then I don't actually do anything.
I guess it does something.
So maybe I'll I'll start sneaking it into every episode. Here's your little fuck fascist of the week.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Somebody's got to do something.
Somebody's got
to do something.
We could really use Batman.
Shoot.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, but Batman just like he beats up poor people.
Sorry,
it's what he does.
Batman beats up poor.
They're desperate.
I don't know Batman well enough.
Sorry, you think Batman? I guess he is sort of a cop. I don't know.
Batman's a cop.
Yeah, he's
Dang, dude.
The police don't like him either.
No, he's not. He's Bruce Wayne. He's rich. I guess he's a billionaire. So down with all billionaires means defund Batman.
Well, but except that Batman did when he's just killing the cronies, I get that. But he doesn't kill people.
He doesn't.
Well, he's like, I just paralyzed them from the waist down.
He gives them a lifetime of chronic pain.
Beats them good, but typically he's trying to find their boss. He's trying to find Scarecrow. He's trying to find
You
Joker.
watch the beginning of every Batman movie. Those are people who they're in a bad position. They're in a bad situation.
They are.
They're desperate. They're looking for a quick buck.
He gives them chronic pain.
And he says, I'm going to give you arthritis in the knee for life.
No, you know what? Those people are hurting other people first.
It's my worst take is that Batman is
bad.
Is a
Batman's going to give you a bad hip for the rest of your life.
Well, we gave lots of advice on again how to solve everything. that you've ever been worried about.
Yeah.
But if you want some sort of cutesy advice, some sprinkle advice, some make your life a little bit better advice,
Yummy.
we've got Miles Bonsignore.
It's advice that'll go for miles. Tune it to your radio station. It's advice that'll go for miles. Everyone get ready, Miles Nation. Miles Nation, go. It's advice that'll go for miles. Advice that'll go for miles.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to get absolutely boned?
Tonight's the night.
Tonight's the night that you're going to get fucked.
Whoa.
Get fucked by a little snack.
Oh.
And
Jardermelon.
Jardermelon is still in, but it is not what I'm talking about today. Today, I want you to be, are you crazy for a raisin?
No way.
5 little raisins when you take a shit.
Wait.
What?
What? Do you store them in the bathroom
Are
too?
you replenishing the sugars that you lost?
After you take a little shit, you deserve 5 little raisins because that's what I've been giving to my son to help potty train. But I think it actually also applies to adults. Treat yourself to 5 raisins. Count them out. Mwah. Yum, yum, yum. Nature's candy.
Only
It's
5.
Never tasted better. Only 5. Don't get greedy now. You're going to want 5 raisins to pop in your mouth to replenish your electrolytes.
Does he love raisins?
He's just a freak for it.
Kids
Does
love raisins.
have electrolytes?
They're chock full of electrolytes.
And sugar.
And sugar, mostly sugar.
That's why the kids like them.
They're grapes, but old. They're like Benjamin Button grapes.
Yeah, they're grapes
They're
if somebody
jerky.
forgot in the sun and someone else came and said, oh, grape.
Like
That's
a
right.
raisin in
Well, I like the idea that there would be
sun.
grape jerky. How about this, though? I think I must have said this on the show before.
Nope.
You know,
You haven't. This is original.
you don't hear about grape bran, but you should.
Aren't
A
there?
bowl of
Wow.
a bowl of white grapes and bran flakes. That's what raisin bran is.
Yeah, it is.
Feel old yet?
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't there grape nuts?
Yes, but they don't have full size.
No, they should.
Juicy grapes.
They should have big old grapes in there.
They really should.
The raisins, like the biggest brand is like Sun-Made.
Yeah.
And to me, that is just like found.
Yeah, sun made.
These are found.
These are found grapes.
These grapes have been found.
We found these on the ground.
We found them. The sun made them.
But
Yeah.
don't they spell made MAID or no?
And
Maybe.
she's kind of hot.
She's a lady. She is cute.
Hit us with the official Tripod theme song.
Doesn't matter where you grew up, you're living in a totalitarian regime. Is the tripod.